Every civilization that ever found the marker did the same thing. They stopped, they read the warning, and they turned around. Every civilization except one. In the year 2071, a deep space listening array picked up something strange drifting near a dead patch of sky, 11 light years past the edge of mapped space. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a comet. It was a structure built from something that wasn't rock and wasn't metal, a material no lab on Earth could identify. It had been sitting there for longer than the array's computers could confidently calculate. Possibly millions of years. Possibly longer. Around it in a slow, ancient orbit, drifted 17 smaller objects. Identical. Silent. Spaced with mathematical precision. Scientists called the structure the marker. They called the 17 objects the ring. At the center of everything the marker orbited was the real discovery. The reason anyone had built anything out here at all. A black hole, young by cosmic standards, but somehow already massive, wrapped from every side in a thick, glowing shell of infalling gas, so dense that no light escaped from its center. Astronomers had a name for objects like this one, a phenomenon first proposed decades earlier to explain how black holes could grow so large, so fast, in the early universe. They called it a black hole star. It looked almost peaceful from a distance, a soft, burning cocoon in the dark. Everyone who studied the marker's surface eventually noticed the same thing. It was covered in the same symbol, repeated over and over, in at least 4 completely different alien scripts. Nobody could translate it, but nobody needed to, not really, because every one of those 17 silent objects in the ring, once examined up close by robotic probes, turned out to be the same thing. A ship, dead, drifting, empty. 17 different civilizations had come to this place. And 17 times, whatever came back from the cocoon, if anything came back at all, was nothing but hollow hull, orbiting forever beside a warning nobody could read. Humanity found the 18th ship 5 years later. It was still moving, still transmitting. It just wasn't supposed to exist yet. Dr. Elena Cho had spent 11 years studying the marker symbol before she ever saw the cocoon in person. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't chasing glory. She had a working theory, a good one, that the symbol wasn't a warning at all in the way everyone assumed. She thought it might be a name, a record, something closer to a headstone than a keep out sign. If I'm wrong, she told the mission board, we lose a ship like everyone before us. If I'm right, we're the first ones who ever understood what we were looking at. The board approved the mission on one condition: no risk beyond the outer gas layer. Observe. Record. Come home. Elena led a crew of 6 aboard the Odysseus. Among them was her closest friend and mission engineer, Sam Okafor, who had one rule of his own. We turn back the second something doesn't make sense, Sam said, during the final systems check before departure. Not after. The second. Elena agreed. She meant it, too. They reached the outer gas layer 19 months later, and for the first 11 hours, everything went exactly according to plan. Then the Odysseus started picking up structure inside the gas, not random turbulence, patterns, repeating shapes in the density readings, like something was organized down there, layered in rings far too perfect to be natural. That's not gas behaving like gas, Sam said quietly, staring at the readout. That's gas behaving like it's been told what to do. Elena stared at the same numbers, and for the first time since the mission began, she felt something she hadn't expected. Not fear, recognition. I think this is the same pattern, she said slowly, as the symbol on the marker. The order came from mission control to hold position, run analysis, and report back before going any further. Elena gave the order to hold. The Odysseus did not hold. A navigation fault. Later, no one could agree on whether it was a malfunction or a decision the ship's systems made on their own. Pulled them another 400 kilometers deeper into the gas. And then at 3:14 mission time, every channel on the Odysseus went silent. No distress call. No wreckage. No signal at all. For 6 years, nothing came back. Elena Cho's name became a memorial. A crater on the far side of the moon was named after her. Sam Okafor's daughter gave a speech at the 10th anniversary of the mission. thanking her father for teaching her that curiosity was worth the risk. Everyone had made peace with what happened to the Odysseus. Then, on a quiet Tuesday morning 6 years and 41 days after the ship went dark, a receiving station outside Barstow, California picked up a transmission. It was faint, it was structured, and it was coming from a location that made the lead engineer on duty check her instruments 3 times before she believed them. The signal wasn't coming from the outer gas layer, where the Odysseus had last been seen. It was coming from 400 kilometers deeper, a region so close to the black hole's boundary that, according to every model anyone had, nothing should be able to send a signal out of it at all. Light itself struggled to escape from that depth. A radio wave had no business surviving the trip. But it had survived, and when the analysts finally cleaned up the signal enough to listen to it, what they heard wasn't noise. It was a voice. This is Elena Cho. The recording said, calm and steady, like she was reading a status report instead of speaking from somewhere that shouldn't allow speech at all. Mission Commander, Odysseus. If anyone is receiving this, we're still here. Humanity wasn't the only one who heard it. 11 light years away, in a system no human telescope had ever mapped, a species that called itself the Vantar had been quietly monitoring the cocoon for longer than human civilization had existed. It was the Vantar who built the marker. It was the Vantar's ancestors who watched, generation after generation, as ship after ship went in and nothing but silence came back. The Vantar didn't build the marker as a threat. They built it as an apology, a record, left for anyone who came after them, warning them away from a mistake they'd made themselves long ago before they understood what the cocoon actually was. When their listening stations picked up a human voice coming from inside the cocoon, alive and coherent after 6 years, it wasn't panic that spread through their outposts. It was something closer to grief, and something closer to hope, because in all their recorded history, across every civilization whose wreck orbited that grave, nothing had ever spoken back. It took Earth scientists 8 months to build a system capable of replying, and 11 more to understand what Elena was actually telling them. The cocoon wasn't just a black hole wrapped in gas. Deep inside that gas shell, in a region shielded from the black hole's worst forces by the density and structure of cloud itself, gravity slowed time down to a crawl. What felt like 6 years on Earth had felt, to Elena and her crew, like a little over 4 months. But time wasn't the strangest part. The deeper structure the Odysseus had detected, the patterns in the gas, turned out to be exactly what Sam had guessed in his last recorded words before the ship went dark. Engineered, ancient, a vast half-dormant lattice built long before the Vantar existed, designed to do one thing, catch what was falling in and preserve it. Not the ship, not the bodies, the minds. It wasn't rescue. It wasn't magic. The builders of that lattice, whoever they were, long extinct by the time the Vantar ever arrived, had created something closer to a library of last resort, a place to hold on to a civilization's thoughts, patterns, memories, when everything else about them was about to be lost forever. 17 times, something had tried to take root inside that lattice and failed. The patterns of 17 different species had come apart too quickly to stabilize, minds too rigid, too centralized, too easily broken once separated from a living body. The Odysseus crew had one advantage nobody, not even Elena, had understood going in. Human minds don't hold information the way most of those other species had. They're redundant, overlapping, built through years of relationships, arguments, shared memory, borrowed context from everyone around them. Sam didn't just remember the mission. He remembered it partly through Elena's eyes, and she partly through his, and the rest of the crew wove through both of them like threads in the same cloth. When the Odysseus came apart, the 6 of them didn't come apart as 6 separate, fragile signals. They came apart as one interlocking pattern, redundant enough to survive its own collapse, stable enough, after 4 months of adjustment inside that ancient lattice, to reassemble something close enough to a voice. We're not alive the way you'd understand it. Elena's message explained months later, once real conversation became possible. But we're not gone, either. Whatever this place was built to save, I think, for the first time in a very long time, it actually worked. There was no ticker tape parade, no triumphant return. The Odysseus crew never came home, not in the way Sam's daughter had once hoped. What came back instead was something stranger and in its own way, more remarkable. Proof that 6 ordinary people, in the last second before their ship came apart, had held on to each other tightly enough that something of them endured. Sam's final message to his daughter was 3 sentences long. She has never shared the third one publicly. The Vantar reached out to Earth for the first time 4 months after the reply was confirmed. Their first transmission wasn't a greeting. It was a question: how did you survive what we could not? Elena's answer became the first line of a new kind of science, one still being written today. We didn't survive alone, she said. We never do. There's one detail from Elena's last full transmission that mission analysts still argue about, buried at the very end of an otherwise routine data packet, after the coordinates, after the technical specifications of the lattice, after everything that could be explained. There was a short, unscheduled fragment, 11 words, sent almost like an afterthought. There's another one of these, and we're not the only voice. No further explanation followed. No coordinates. No context. The signal, sent from a place light itself can barely escape, simply ended there. What's real? The black hole star at the center of the story is based on genuine recent astrophysics. Researchers have proposed that some of the earliest, most massive black holes in the universe grew inside thick shells of infalling gas, which helps explain how they became so large so quickly after the Big Bang. Extreme time dilation near a black hole is also real, well-established physics. The closer you get to one, the slower time passes compared to someone far away. What's scientifically possible but far from proven? The idea that gravitational time dilation could meaningfully slow a crew's experience relative to Earth is grounded in real relativity, though the exact numbers in this story are dramatized for effect. The broader question of whether information, including something as complex as a mind, could theoretically be preserved or reconstructed under extreme physical conditions touches on real, ongoing debates in physics, including the black hole information paradox. What's speculative? An ancient alien lattice built specifically to preserve minds, and the idea that human cognitive redundancy would make our minds more likely to survive such a process are speculative extensions with no real scientific basis. They're inspired by real ideas in neuroscience about distributed, overlapping memory, but stretch well past anything that could currently be tested. What's pure fiction? The Marker, the Ring, the Vantar, Elena Cho, the Odysseus, and surviving transmission are entirely invented for this story. Final verdict. The black hole at the heart of this story could really exist, and the physics of time near it is real. Everything else, the grave, the voice, and what survived inside it, is fiction. But it's the kind of fiction built on just enough real science to make you wonder, next time you look up, what else might be listening from somewhere we haven't reached yet?